Welcome. My name is Michael, and I'm working on a new automation platform called new-.com. This is a quick demo of what new-dash is today and what it can do. Um, the platform is far from complete, but we believe it already has sufficient functionality for early testers to start using the system. So it all starts with the screen where user starts entering what type of automation they want to write. Now we've got very basic triggers that are either manual, so you can click a button, or we have scheduled triggers, so you can run a rule at a specific interval of time. And we are working on other triggers, but this is sort of a good starting point. So maybe to show two simple automations, the one or two automations. I'll quickly show how the system works, and maybe we'll touch on a second one. Maybe we won't. So this video is completely unscripted, hence it is what it is. So I've already have a previous automation here, which is a midday lunch reminder. I can for Discord. The system had some issues, so this rule isn't actually what it says it is. So we'll start with a fresh one, but let's actually try to just reproduce the same um, the same test. The idea is that we have a schedule, let's say once every hour, and at every hour we want to post a message to Discord. And so yeah, you as a user you basically describe what you want, which is I want to make this slightly larger. There you go. So I in Discord. Yeah, I can't really think of a good rule, which is not a good starting point. So let's go back and do something very simple. Fetch my latest this email from my inbox and tell me whether it is positive or negative. Now, this rule is simple, or it sounds simple, but it's not actually as simple as it seems. So first we need to be able to connect to an inbox. What inbox would that be? So this first question. The second one is we need to be able to actually authenticate with that system. And third, to do sentiment analysis, positive or negative. I'm not even sure what the system will do. So we'll just try and we see what happens. So once submitting the agent, we have an agent that basically does the work for us, gets going. You see here the agent is now starting to do some research of what code is available. It realized it needs a large language model to do the sentiment analysis, so that's a good thing. Now the other thing that it realized is, well, what service do you want? And so the only two we support right now are Gmail and Outlook. We'll soon add others, but this is already, I think, touches on a quite large group of people. So we start with those two. And so let me say I have a Gmail account. And so it sort of already figured that out. It wrote a description of what it tried to do. So that was here. And then once the agent can go about to actually write a rule, it defines a workflow. Now the workflow here is in part for the agent to split up the work into sub pieces, but it's also more for the users. The users see what's going on. Now the agent then, as a next step, should go about and write the code, which it's already done. And as soon as it's written the code for the workflow, it'll start triggering the workflow. And so the workflow now has run. It's a simple trigger that you press on a button. and which the agent can effectively do as well. Which then, as input, there's no input in this case, right? The agent just said, well, it's a manual trigger. The first step, however, here now is it needs to connect to Google. And ignore these errors here. Here you see the output that from the execution of what these nodes are. But really what happened under the hood is the system realized it doesn't actually know how to connect to Google yet because the user hasn't authenticated. Now, an important part of the system is that we don't allow the agent or the AI to actually see user credentials. We give it a way to request credentials that so it can then use those in order to connect, but we are hiding that functionality away from the AI. It's also connectivity and configuration is ultimately the hard part of automation systems, and we really want to simplify this for users by basically putting sort of a nice experience around it. In this case, what this means is the node has paused because it needs information, and the input that's required in this case is basically I need a Google connection so I can connect to Google. And so we're going to add a connection now here. And we can give it any name. If you have multiple user accounts, right, you can give different names to different user accounts. So different rules could use different accounts. So even within a rule, you could use different accounts depending on what you're doing. So this goes through an OAuth flow. There's our test user that we have. And we haven't verified the app yet. This is a very deep well to go through in order to get our app verified. We are planning to do that from both an experience point of view and also credibility point of view. But this gonna take us months. So until then, users effectively have to click on advanced and then say that they actually want to continue, even though Google says it's unsafe. Now we're taking great care of making the platform safe. It's not that it's unsafe, but it's that Google doesn't trust that we are making it safe, which fair enough on Google's behalf. Now I'm signing in as this user. So this is all part of what's called an OAuth flow to authenticate with another system. A few more warning boxes from Google telling me basically, let me see. No, it doesn't actually say what it needs in addition. In this case, I believe it just asks for Gmail data. And so let's continue. So the system also, I was actually shown on the dialog there. We are only requesting permissions that we actually need. So if the system later on needs more permissions, it'll basically ask for more permissions. And so the fetch email has succeeded. You'll here is the body of the email. Yeah, because I'm going through these OAuth flows all the time, I'm also getting all these warning emails from Google all the time in my Gmail inbox. And so the latest email is basically again about a warning that I logged into New-Dash. And so the workflow has run, the sentiment analysis has run as well, and the output is negative because subject is alert. And so that's basically the final message is that the automation rule now printed out is that the latest email in your inbox was classified as having negative sentiment. Now, this was one example of an automation rule. The in itself, this might not be super useful, but I think what's important to understand here is we basically had a coding agent pick up on all the requirements that the user had and translate that into effectively a software program that solved the problem. And this is really where I think this platform shines compared to other automation platforms that give you these pre-configured nodes, and then users need to sort of patch those different nodes together. And it's almost always in the integration of the different pieces where things get complicated. We've done away with all of that by not even having different type of components. It's all just code and an agent that can code. And what has happened in the software industry over the last 6 months is that the one use case where AI agents actually have proven their value is in coding agents. And so we firmly believe that this approach is a far better approach, both for the user, but also from a taking more advantage of the recent technology advances in AI compared to the other automation systems. So yeah, that was a simple rule. If you go on triggers, triggers show you how you can start it. This UI will all change, but basically the in this case the trigger is really just a simple trigger that you click on a button. Now, once you've done a rule, the next step that you would do is you would activate the rule, and so by activating rule, now the rule is active. You get two additional tabs. So you get an overview tab that allows you to run the automation. I might as well quickly do this, as well as and then the second tab is the execution tab, where you can see the past executions. But let's go back to overview. Here you basically see back the description that the agent has written over the workflow. My or our vision for this is really that users focus more on what needs to get done, and documentation of the the goals and the outcomes of the systems, rather than the documentation of the various building blocks, which ultimately are really just an implementation detail. So if we go under executions, you see this time around it already had the configuration. It's another tab for Gmail. That's the one that we connected previously. And so it effectively ran really quickly and quickly got a result. Now, I wouldn't have gotten a different email, so I expect the result to be exactly the same, right? And so, so yeah, that's a demo of a simple rule. You can go back to automations to see the previous rules as well as start another rule.